Crystal Palace 1, Liverpool 3. The scoreline makes it appear rather comfortable for the Reds, and it was when they were 2-0 up, Janusz. But over the piece, Palace gave a good account of themselves in a good game to watch.
They did, Mark. I mean, it went from total domination early in this game to a little bit of a survival, right? I mean, remember when Jurgen Klopp jokingly said that the 7-0 was one-off, and early after 20 minutes, I thought, you know what, there's another 5-0 at least coming through. So obviously a lot of credit has to go to Crystal Palace and Patrick Vieira. I think there's no surprise there, the way they play. And even though they miss, like Kouyaté and Zaha, you look at the way Olise has played, Edson Edouard, the couple minutes after halftime were incredible. If it wasn't for Alisson, who knows what would have happened to this game, and I'm not going to even mention the penalty very late that sealed it, because it wasn't a penalty.
Oh, we will.
But I'm sure you want to get into that as well. So look, but for Liverpool, as we've said yesterday, right? You and I talked about the Manchester City, what it means for them, and I remember saying that, look, you just chip away at Manchester City, because I wasn't sure about the Crystal Palace game for the right reason, it turns out. So they're chipping it away. It's 9 points. They have a game in hand, I believe, against Leeds. Maybe that's the game, at home at Anfield. Of course, they will face Manchester City. So you know what? It's still on.
It is, and as you say, they've got to keep chipping away. And this was a potential banana skin. It looked pretty easy at 2-0, and then it became a little bit more difficult. And Palace, when they changed things to go 2 up top in the second half, made life uncomfortable for Liverpool, and certainly had a few chances. But let's start at the beginning with Virgil van Dijk's header, his 16th goal in the Premier League, and the assist from Andrew Robertson. That means the top 3 players with the most assists this season in the Premier League all play for Liverpool. Trent Alexander-Arnold with 10, Mohamed Salah with 9, and now Andrew Robertson with 8. Is Roberto Carlos the Brazilian Andrew Robertson now?
I knew you were going to go that way, but rightfully so, right? We've seen this movie before a couple of years ago, right? When both Andrew Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold had, I don't know, a million assists each, right? When Liverpool won it. I mean, they were absolutely tremendous. I think, I know where you're leading, and you're quite right, is that as of late, for whatever reason, we always seem to talk a little bit more about the assist from Trent Alexander-Arnold, where Andrew Robertson was just as good. He's been quietly good, if not better, right? But I don't know why this narrative sometimes, and he's been as steady as they come. I think if you look at Robertson, I think he's a little bit more balanced on both sides of the ball than Trent. But I think if you're Liverpool, you're happy to have them both because they deliver. And that ball to Ox was absolutely wonderful, right? But he had so much freedom early on. And then, to be fair, Crystal Palace has fixed that at halftime, and in the second half was a little bit better.
Question for you. We've seen Virgil van Dijk, when he's play with different players. He's played with Konate, he's played with Gomez. Who do you think is the best partner for Van Dijk? Because he's kind of got 3, Matip being the other. Who best suits the way that Virgil van Dijk plays as a central defensive partner?
I think it's still Matip. I still, I'm a big fan of Konate, as you know. I was calling for him to Liverpool maybe 3 or 4 years ago, even though he was so injury prone, at Leipzig, right? I mean, if you look at the age of him and when he played with Upamecano, maybe that is, or I thought that was going to be the future of France anyway. But between the injuries, maybe the adjustments, we've seen Konate, but we haven't seen the best of him yet, right? I don't think he's ready. At least he hasn't shown me that he's ready to step in and game out. And that takes time. And as you know, Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp very often give players a lot of times to bet them in, right? So I don't worry about that. But Matip is the best. Today they struggle a little bit, right? I mean, even the goal, if you look at it, Van Dijk struggled on that one. I thought today in the second half in particular, but maybe even more, the midfield Liverpool was outworked. It was really outworked. If you look at Gallagher, Schlupp in that midfield, they work extremely hard. So that was part of the issue. And Fabinho wasn't at his best. Scored from a penalty, but I thought it was one of the poor performances for a player that never, ever disappoints, at least me, in terms of protecting the back four. I mean, how many chances did Crystal Palace have? I mean, four,
Well,
five,
that
six
yeah,
chances.
that's what I want to talk about as well, because when you've got the two fullbacks that love to get forward and are so good at providing assists, you do need a bit more protection for the defence, and they're gettable. Liverpool, they know they're likely going to score one or two more than the opposition, but if you're an opposition manager facing Liverpool, you know you're going to get chances, don't you?
Yeah, because of the high line and the confidence that Jurgen Klopp has in Matip, and that's why I mentioned Matip as the perfect one, because both of those players have very good recovery pace. Right, today they've done it sometimes, but at times they were outplayed. You know, Olisa was great. Mateta a couple of times got behind. Right, and Eduard as well. So a bit of a problem today, but when that problem arises, you always know you have Alisson, right, and he was absolutely tremendous. Couple saves, outstanding from him, because he's so comfortable playing high away from his line, because he knows he has to shorten that distance between Van Dijk or that back four in general. So look, it's a calculated risk. It's very often, it's easy to say for us, well, look, maybe today Van Dijk and Fabinho or Matip didn't play well, and fair play, but I mean, they do take that risk, and you understand that there are going to be times when people will get behind you.
I'm deliberately leaving the VAR involvement in the Jota challenge to last. Before that, penultimate question. The next time that Liverpool play in the Premier League, it's likely they'll have both Salah and Mane back from the Africa Cup of Nations, depending what happens. But if that is the case, how would you assess what they have done without their two key players since they've been away?
Well, they've done extremely well. Look, here's the irony of this whole thing, right? That last time they played, they both scored, and it was against Chelsea, right? And they threw away two, what I think psychologically may be the biggest points away, because they led in that game 2-0. Both Sadio Mane scored the first goal early, and then Salah scored. And since then, they've won everything, didn't they? They actually, defensively, they were playing well until maybe today. They've conceded today the first goal in the Premier League, I believe. I think the only other one was against Shrewsbury, but that was a whole other Liverpool team that played in that game in the FA Cup. So we worried so much about them missing, and they've gone out of their way to keep them for that Chelsea game. And I think, that's the irony of it, is that they've done well, and maybe, Jurgen Klopp was right not to worry about it. He trusts in players. Diogo Jota has been outstanding. Maybe today he had an off game, wasn't spectacular, although he did get that penalty somehow in the end, but maybe not as good a game as he had the previous game as well. So they've done extremely well without those two.
Okay, let's end with that penalty. And when you get Liverpool fans even saying, wow, I can't believe we were given that, just check on social media and you'll find plenty of them. You take it, of course you do. But on which planet and why, after numerous replays, do the officials decide, I think that might be a penalty? It is a ridiculous decision. So why is it being given?
I don't know, because an experienced referee would have looked outside of everything and say, okay, when that touch goes long, that doesn't matter in the laws of the game, right? But you can clearly see Diogo Jota knowing that he's not getting to the ball, and the last movement is Diogo Jota into Guaita. Just watch that closely. It doesn't matter, because Guaita is just there. He knows nothing's going to happen on that play. He almost stops his momentum going forward, and that's not easy, being on your knees. And you can see Diogo Jota saying, you know what? That was a bad touch from me. I have no room to go anywhere. I'm just going to lean into and go right into the goalkeeper. And that's exactly what happened. And that's exactly what the referee should have seen. If VAR didn't see it somehow, because they should be the first one to say, this is too close. We're not overturning a bad decision. They go to the referee. The referee should have enough experience to see that Diogo Jota moved in the last moment into the goalkeeper. No penalty in any book, I hope.
I just wonder at the end of the season, Janusz, when Mike Riley, the head of referees and involved heavily with VAR, sits down for a debrief with all his colleagues, there is no way that they can see we've had a perfect season, we've had a successful season. What is the issue with Mike Riley and the English Premier League interpretation of VAR that causes so much consternation?
Well, I wish I had an answer for that. I think those decisions are, maybe sometimes not as hard, right? I think one of the major issues, although today it wasn't the case, it was to let the referees go and look at the monitor more often. I'm past that. It takes, more time. I mean, if it takes a little bit more time and the right decision is being made, so be it. I don't think anyone's going to be unhappy with that, right? The players, the managers, the fans, they'll take that extra 30 seconds or a minute for the referee to make the right decision. And I think for the referee is sometimes to put their hands up and say, you know what, my initial decision was wrong and I'm going to change it.
When one gets it wrong, that's why VAR should come in and get it right. I think the referee on the field got it right and VAR got it wrong. So many more questions than answers with the interpretation of VAR in the English Premier League. We shall leave that for another day. It wasn't the officials' best day at the office. For Liverpool, they get all 3 points. The gap at the top is narrowed. For Palace, I think shooting practice is required this week, but at least they got plenty chances.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.